The Xelari Republic had never known desperation until the Drav'kul came. The Drav'kul were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not invade to rule, nor enslave for labor. They arrived in swarms, a tide of chittering void-born predators that stripped planets bare of resources, life, and hope. Worlds that had stood for millennia fell silent in weeks. The Xelari fleets, proud and numerous, burned against the onslaught like paper before a flame. In the Senate chambers of Athek Prime, the surviving Xelari leaders debated their only option, the Cry of Concord. It was an ancient protocol, a desperate beacon meant to summon aid from any species willing to listen. It had never been used in the Republic's history. To use it now meant admitting the Republic could not defend itself. Better humiliation than extinction, whispered Chancellor Varys as she pressed her claw against the console. A burst of light raced into the dark of space, a cry of desperation that would carry across the galaxy. The cry reaches the shadows. The message spread far. Many races heard it. Few considered answering. The Kaldor turned away, muttering of wasted resources. The Siren pretended they never heard it. The Drav'kul themselves mocked the signal, sending taunts back on encrypted channels. But in the deep and forgotten corridors of the galaxy, where old maps did not reach, the cry of Concord reached another people. The Deathworlders. They were a species of whispers, an urban legend to most of the galaxy. Creatures from a planet so hostile, so unyielding, that survival alone bred strength unimaginable. They called their world Earth. Few had seen it. Fewer still had survived contact with its denizens. Rumors told of predators that hunted for sport, of poisons in the very air, of storms that could shatter stone. And the ones who called that nightmare home? Monsters in the shape of sapients. And yet, when the Xelari cried for help, the Deathworlders answered. The first meeting. Aboard the battered Xelari flagship Oryx Dawn, Chancellor Varys awaited the supposed allies. Her advisors argued endlessly. They are myths, barked General Harren. If they were real, why did they never join the Concord? Why hide in the shadows of the galaxy? Because myths don't need politics, Varys replied quietly. Then the shadows moved. From a rift of folded space, a small fleet emerged. Not the grand armadas of the Xelari, nor the swarms of the Drav'kul. These ships were angular, scarred, their hulls blackened as if they had fought wars the galaxy had forgotten. And painted across their steel hides was a single mark, a handprint, red against the void. The humans stepped aboard the flagship. They were tall, their bodies dense with muscle and bone. Their eyes were strange, predatory, yet burning with something else.
Fire. Will.
Defiance. I am Commander Elias Kane, the foremost human said, voice like gravel. We heard your cry. Varys bowed, though her spines trembled. And you came. Kane's lips curled into something not quite a smile. We don't ignore cries for help. The plan. The Xelari had fleets, though broken. They had worlds, though burning. What they lacked was a way to fight the Drav'kul, who adapted to weapons, overwhelmed defenses, and spread like wildfire. The humans studied the enemy transmissions with unnerving intensity. Where Xelari scientists saw impenetrable chaos, the humans saw patterns. Where generals saw defeat, the humans saw opportunity. They're not gods, Kane explained during the War Council. They're predators. Predators can be baited, trapped, starved. We've fought worse on our own world. The Xelari recoiled at the comparison. What predator could be worse than the Drav'kul? The humans only smiled. The first battle. It began at Arrek's fall, a mining world already marked for death. The Drav'kul's swarm descended, expecting easy prey. What they found instead was silence. Cities abandoned, skies empty, minds stripped. Only the deep tunnels remained. When the swarm entered the labyrinth, the humans struck. Explosives buried in the walls collapsed entire hives. Fire spread through oxygen-rich chambers. Xelari forces, guided by human strategy, struck from hidden choke points. For the first time in living memory, the Drav'kul screamed not in hunger, but in pain. The humans fought like demons. Where Xelari soldiers fired from cover, humans charged into melee, blades and guns in hand. They moved with terrifying precision, as if chaos itself bent around them. They did not fear death, they dared it. By the battle's end, Arrek's fall still stood, broken, scarred, but alive. The war turns. Word spread like wildfire. The Deathworlders had returned. Other races scoffed at first, dismissing the stories as propaganda. But then came more victories. Ambushes in asteroid fields. Swarms lured into gravity wells. Viral plagues designed by human scientists to eat through Drav'kul chitin. One by one, the predators bled. The Xelari began to hope. Yet with hope came fear. For they saw their allies fight not as soldiers, but as creatures unleashed. Humans laughed in the face of death, celebrated wounds as trophies, and spoke casually of horrors that made Xelari blood run cold. One night, after a grueling battle, Chancellor Varys asked Cain the question gnawing at her soul. Why do you fight for us? Why risk yourselves for strangers? Cain was silent for a long time. Then he said, because we remember what it's like to be prey. And we swore we'd never let it happen again. To anyone. The final stand. The Drav'kul, enraged and wounded, gathered their largest swarm. Billions of them, a tide meant to crush not just a planet, but hope itself. They descended on Athek Prime, the jewel of the Republic, determined to end the war in one night. The Xelari prepared for extinction. The humans prepared for war. The trap was brutal in its simplicity. Humans had seeded the system with hidden stations, mines, and weapons carved from dead moons. The Xelari fleet formed a desperate defense line, their ships bristling with human modifications. And in the heart of it all, the human fleet waited, silent and still. When the swarm arrived, the stars themselves erupted. Planet-side cannons tore holes in the enemy. Orbital mines shredded their numbers. And then the humans struck, tearing through the swarm with reckless abandon. They fought ship to ship, blade to claw, scream to roar. Every loss was answered with vengeance. Every death made them stronger. The Xelari, inspired, fought beside them. For the first time, they did not cower. They roared. When the battle ended, the skies of Athek Prime were littered with burning husks. The Drav'kul swarm was broken, scattered to the void. Aftermath. Silence fell over the galaxy. The predators who had devoured empires were gone. The Republic lived. In the Senate chambers, Chancellor Varys addressed the victors. You saved us. You saved everything. How can we ever repay you? Commander Cain looked out the vast windows, where wreckage still burned in the night sky. You repay us by remembering. Remember that when you cried for help, we came. Remember that when shadows gather again, you don't face them alone. The humans left soon after, vanishing back into the void. No one knew where they went, only that they had come from the shadows, fought like gods, and then disappeared once more. But across the galaxy, whispers spread. Whispers of the Deathworlders. Whispers of Earth,